Hey everybody, I was able to get this test remediation out before the holiday, so here goes. Let's make sure that our volume is up and that we're listening. We have to show work on the left side just like I do it, and then do the same thing on the right side to get full credit, okay? Right. Okay, most missed problems on the test. This was one of the most missed problems on the test. A few things. I think what we're forgetting to do is forgetting that square means this is multiplied times itself. So what you're going to want to do is write it twice. Write it twice. So it is 3x minus 4 multiplied times 3x minus 4. Okay, the problem is what we're trying to do here is square the first term and square the second term, and that is incorrect. We've got to write it twice. So we are doing a 2 by 2 box. Three x minus 4 goes down the side, and the same thing goes across the top. We are multiplying coefficients. We are adding powers. So this is 9x squared. Here we get negative 12x. Here we get negative 12x. And then a negative times a negative is a positive 16. Okay? We can now combine the middle terms, the x terms, a negative 12 and a negative 12. Bring down the positive 16 and bring down the 9x squared. The correct answer was C. Okay, I want you to do the same thing over here. If you're listening, I want you to write it twice on this side as well, and I want you to draw me a big heart right over the top of the problem. Thank you. Okay, number 2, another most missed problem. The first issue is, again, we've got the same issue here, knowing how to do that, but then remembering that we've got to add 5x at the end. Okay, so we're going to do a 2 by 2 box, because the square is telling me that 3x minus 1 is getting multiplied times itself. So I've got 9x squared, negative 3x, negative 3x, and a positive 1 when I multiply. I can combine the x terms to get negative 6x. I'm going to bring down the plus 1, bring down the 9x squared, and then I do not want to forget about that little guy. Okay? I'm going to add 5x. So now I can combine like terms again, and I combine a negative 6x and a positive 5x to get a negative 1x. Bring down plus 1 and bring down 9x squared. The correct answer was C. Okay? Make sure you're showing all your work on the right-hand side just like we did on the left-hand side. Okay, if you're listening, also draw me a rectangle next to number 2T. All right. Most missed problem. It's been a while since we did this, but it's a multi-step equation. So I am going to distribute. Okay. Now, remember with a fraction, we don't need to be worried about this. Since it's a 1 there, I can ignore that, but we have a 3 on top, and 3 divided by 3 is 1, and negative times positive is negative. So when I distribute this first term, this is just negative 1x. Now I'm going to distribute negative 1/3 to the negative 9. Well, negative times negative is positive, and now I have a 9 on top and a 3 on the bottom. 9 divided by 3 is 3. I'm going to bring down my plus 12, my equal sign. I can go ahead and distribute on the right side of the equation. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 3 is negative. Like terms here. So when I combine a 3 and a 12, I get a positive 15, and I'm going to bring everything else down. Now I've got to get my variables on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides of the equation. Negative 1x minus 2x is a negative 3x. I'm going to bring everything else down. Don't forget the negative on the 6. Now we have a two-step equation. I'm going to subtract 15 on both sides. Bring down negative 3x. Bring down the equals. When I combine over here, I get negative 21. And now, last step, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. So my answer is 7. Okay? Make sure you do the same thing over here. And if you would, at the top of this problem, draw a flower for me. Last most missed problem. Factor by the greatest common factor method. What I did like to see was that most of the factoring in the test was not the most missed. This one was, and I know why, and I'm going to go over that with you, but it appears we're pretty good at the factoring, and that's a great thing, because we're going to need the factoring throughout the rest of our math courses. So I'm glad that you all are doing well with the factoring. Greatest common factor method. Basically, the way we do the greatest common factor is we find the greatest common factor, we pull it out, and we set up one parenthesis. So I need my greatest common factor. The greatest common factor between 8 and 10 is a 2. The greatest common factor between x to the 6th and x to the 4th, remember, we picked the smallest power. So I'm going to get you to write this. Maybe that'll help you remember. We're picking the smallest power. And they've got to show up in all the terms. So x shows up in both terms. I'm picking the smallest power, so it's x to the 4th. Okay. Now, the next step to know what I fill in here is we divide all the terms by the greatest common by 2x to the 4th here. And I'm going to divide by 2x to the 4th here. Now we are dividing coefficients and we are subtracting powers. 8 divided by 2 is 4. I am subtracting powers, so I get an x squared. Same thing here, negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. And here is where the mistake came in. When we have the same powers on top and bottom, that variable cancels out. And when that variable cancels out, we do not come down here and put an x. And when I looked at all the wrong answers, this was the most chosen wrong answer. Everything else was right, but instead of canceling out and leaving the x out here, we put an x right here. This is not correct. That is not correct. The correct answer is C. Okay, so remember that. When these variables cancel out, we do not put an x here. There will be no x here when the variable cancels out. Okay, all right. I want you guys to do the same thing over here. Go ahead and write your middle name right here next to number 4R. You guys have a good day.